I went to the airport to welcome my son after a year abroad, but one question from a security guard turned everything upside down. Suddenly, my daughter-in-law was gone, my grandson terrified, and I realized we were caught in a nightmare I never saw coming. Watch until the end to find out how I faced the unimaginable, saved my daughter-in-law, and protected my family. You won't believe what happens next. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss as I walked into the arrivals hall of Lax. My daughter-in-law, Emma, beside me, holding my grandson Noah's tiny hand. The airport smelled of warm pretzels and jet fuel, that familiar mix that always reminded me of reunions, homecomings, and long-awaited hugs. Today was supposed to be one of those days. My son Daniel was coming home after working overseas for a full year. A year of missed birthdays, holidays, family dinners, and the little moments that matter more than people admit. Noah bounced on his toes, his little Lightning McQueen backpack jingling with every hop. He kept looking around at the massive screens showing arrival times, as if he expected his father to walk out right then and there. "Grandma, how much longer?" he asked, craning his neck toward the terminal doors. "Just a few minutes, sweetheart," I said, patting his shoulder. "The plane landed early. You know your dad, he'll be one of the first ones out." Emma laughed softly. He always rushes off the plane as if he's afraid someone will leave without him." I smiled. Everything felt normal, warm, excited. Nothing, absolutely nothing, hinted at what was about to unfold. We moved closer to the barriers where families were gathering with flowers, balloons, and handmade signs. Noah tugged Emma toward the restroom. "Mama, I gotta go." "All right, come on," she said, handing me her purse. "Mom, we'll be right back. Take your time." I didn't think twice. Why would I? But 5 minutes later, as I checked my phone for the 10th time to see if Daniel had texted, a tall security guard in a blue TSA uniform stopped right in front of me. His walk had purpose. His expression was tight. His eyes scanned the area before landing sternly on me. "Ma'am," he said, "where is the woman who came in with you?" It took me a second to process his tone. Sharp, urgent, nothing like the polite airport staff I'd interacted with over the years. "You mean my daughter?" I asked, confused. "She just went into the restroom with my grandson." He leaned into the radio clipped to his shoulder, pressing a button. From the speaker, a cold male voice crackled through. "She just ran out toward the east exit. Team G, proceed to surround her." I blinked slowly, my heart stopping in my chest. Ran out. East exit, surround her. I almost laughed at the absurdity. "You must be mistaken," I said. "My daughter-in-law didn't run anywhere. She's in the restroom." "They'll be out any ma'am," he interrupted, his voice firmer now. "The woman matching her description fled the restroom moments ago. We have visual confirmation." That's when the ground seemed to tilt slightly beneath my feet. I stammered, "No, she's not." I pulled out my phone immediately and dialed Emma.ring.ring.ring.voicemail. I tried again. This time, nothing, not even a ring. Her phone was turned off. My pulse shot through the roof, my breath catching in my throat. A horrible thought twisted in my stomach. "Noah," I whispered, fear crawling up my spine. "Where is my grandson? Did she leave him?" The guard exchanged a quick glance with another officer who had just approached. The new officer spoke quickly into his radio. "Child possibly still inside restroom or nearby. Dispatch search team." My legs felt weak. "Please," I said, "someone tell me what's going on." But no one did. Not yet. Within seconds, alarms sounded low but urgent, and the nearest security gate rolled halfway down. Officers moved quickly through the crowds, guiding confused families back from the hallways, blocking the exits. People began murmuring, panicking, pulling their children close. The sound of heavy airport boots striking the marble floor echoed in my ears as teams of security agents moved like a coordinated wave. The officer who initially approached me tried to guide me to the side. "Ma'am, please stay calm." "Calm," I snapped, tears blurring my vision. "My daughter-in-law is missing, and my grandson might be alone in a restroom. Please tell me what's going on." But they didn't. They wouldn't. Instead, I was surrounded by more officers asking questions, describing Emma's clothing, her hair, her height, when I'd last seen her, whether she'd seemed anxious, whether she'd said anything unusual on the way here. Unusual? No. She was smiling, laughing, talking about Daniel, talking about the dinner she planned to make that night. Nothing hinted at fear or danger. And Emma, she wasn't the type to run, not from anything. After what felt like eternity, Though it couldn't have been more than 15 minutes, another officer rushed over, breathless but controlled. "We found the child," he said. I almost collapsed with relief. Double quotes. "Where? Is he okay? Where is he?" He hesitated. That hesitation was worse than any bad news I'd ever received in my life. "He's safe," the officer said slowly, "but he was found crying behind a row of sinks. He says he can't find his mom." I pressed my hand to my mouth, my heart breaking for my scared little grandson. "But ma'am," the officer added carefully, "there's something else." My hands trembled. What is it?" The officer looked at me with an expression that said he wished he didn't have to deliver this message. "The woman who fled, she wasn't your daughter-in-law." My breath caught. "She wasn't." He shook his head. "No, someone else walked out wearing similar clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. We believe it was intentional, a deliberate attempt to mimic her appearance." A cold chill washed through me from head to toe. If that woman wasn't Emma, where was the real Emma? My thoughts raced faster than my heartbeat. Someone posed as her. Someone tried to make security think she ran. But why? And where was my daughter-in-law? Before I could gather my spinning thoughts, the security guard's radio crackled again. The same cold voice from earlier said, "Female hostage situation confirmed. Proceed to lock Terminal C." Hostage. The word punched me in the chest. My knees buckled. "Emma," I whispered. The guard grabbed my arm to steady me. "Ma'am, please, you need to stay with us. We're doing everything we can." But I couldn't hear him anymore. All I could hear was one horrifying question. Who took her, and what did they want? The words, "female hostage situation confirmed," ricocheted inside my skull, like metal clashing against metal. I stood frozen, my hands shaking as the noise of the airport seemed to fade into a distant, warped hum. Families were being moved back, the arrival gates shut down, and uniformed personnel swarmed the corridor, like an army mobilizing for battle. But I didn't care about any of that. I only cared about one thing. "Where is Emma?" I whispered, my throat too tight to speak louder. The guard guiding me didn't answer. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he wasn't allowed to say maybe. Maybe things were far worse than they could admit out loud. Then Grandma. A small blur launched toward me. Noah practically collided with my legs, his cheeks wet with tears, eyes wide and terrified. "Oh, honey," I sobbed, dropping to my knees to pull him close. "Are you hurt? Did anyone touch you? Are you okay?" He clung to my neck with trembling arms. "Mommy. Mommy didn't come back. I was calling her, but she didn't come. A lady told me to stay still and she said she'd help me, but then she ran away." "Grandma, I lost Mommy." My heart cracked open. I smoothed his hair, trying to calm him, but I could barely calm myself. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're going to find her. I promise." But even as I said it, I had no idea how. A female officer knelt beside us. "Ma'am, can we ask him a few questions?" I nodded, wiping Noah's cheeks gently. "Sweetie," the officer said softly, "when you were in the restroom, did you see anyone else? Anyone besides your mom?" Noah sniffed. "There was a lady with a baseball hat. She told me Mommy asked her to watch me. But Mommy didn't say anything. Mommy was just washing my hands." My lungs squeezed painfully. Emma was right there. Right there. "Then what had happened? Did the lady touch you?" the officer asked. He shook his head. "She just told me to close my eyes because she had something in her bag and she didn't want me to get scared." The officer and I locked eyes. Both of us knew that wasn't normal. "What happened next?" I whispered. Noah swallowed. "Then Mommy started talking to someone, but I didn't understand what they said. And then Mommy said, 'Please, not here.' And then she told me to go sit behind the sinks and be very quiet." A fresh wave of dread rushed through me. "Did you hear her scream?" I asked, barely able to push the words out. He shook his head. "No, but I heard something fall like when you drop your phone." The officers exchanged glances again. This was bad. Very bad. One of the guards stepped away, speaking rapidly into his earpiece. Another gently guided me and Noah away from the crowds, toward a roped-off area with makeshift desks and monitors. It looked like a temporary crisis command station. As we walked, more announcements echoed overhead. "Attention passengers, Terminal C is temporarily closed. Please await further instructions." People complained, shouted, pulled out their phones, unaware of the real nightmare unfolding only steps away. Noah's hand squeezed mine tightly. He kept looking around, his lower lip trembling, searching for any sign of his mother. When we reached the command station, A stern-looking man in a navy blazer approached us. He wasn't TSA or airport security. His badge said, Department of Homeland Security Special Operations. My breath caught. Ma'am, he said in a firm, controlled voice, I'm Agent Harris. We need your cooperation and your calm. Your daughter-in-law is involved in a situation that requires immediate response. Is she alive? I blurted out, gripping the edge of the table. He didn't immediately answer. Is she alive? I repeated, louder this time, my voice cracking. Agent Harris finally nodded. We have no indication that she's been harmed. No indication. Those words were not comforting at all. What happened to her? I asked. He gestured for us to sit. Ma'am, there's something you need to know about your daughter-in-law. There's nothing wrong with my daughter-in-law, I snapped. She's a nurse. She's a mother. She's one of the kindest people I know. Don't you dare imply, ma'am, he said firmly, cutting me off. Emma Harris is currently on an active watch list. The world went silent. All sound evaporated. For a full 5 seconds, I couldn't process a single word. Finally, I breathed. You must be mistaken. He shook his head once. We're not. That's impossible, I whispered. She's never done anything wrong in her entire life. Agent Harris lowered his voice. Ma'am, she's not on the list for something she did. She's on it because of someone connected to her. Connected how? I asked, my heart pounding. He hesitated. And that hesitation told me whatever he was about to reveal would change everything. 3 weeks ago, he said slowly, a high-profile fugitive entered the United States under a false identity. We believe he contacted your daughter-in-law 2 days ago. I stared at him. A fugitive contacted Emma. That makes no sense, I said, shaking my head. Emma barely speaks to anyone outside our family. She works full-time, takes care of Noah, helps at her church. She doesn't know any fugitives. Agent Harris slid a photo across the table. A blurry airport camera still. A man, tall, dark, hoodie, face angled away but enough visible to recognize he was athletic, mid-30s, and not someone to take lightly. This man, Harris said, is believed to be involved in multiple international crimes, including abduction. I felt a cold ripple down my spine. And we believe, he continued quietly, that Emma is his intended target. My chest tightened. But why? I asked. Why her? Because, he said, he's not just any fugitive. He tapped the photo again. He's Emma's brother. The air left my lungs in one violent gasp. Emma's brother. She never mentioned any brother, ever. She'd always told us she was an only child. She never talked about her biological family, except to say she had lost them years ago. I felt dizzy, the floor wobbling beneath me. But she said she didn't have, ma'am, Harris interrupted gently. Your daughter-in-law has been hiding her family background for a reason. And now, that past has caught up with her. I clutched my chest, trying to breathe. So he took her. I whispered, her own brother. Agent Harris nodded grimly. It appears he finally found her, and he isn't here for a family reunion. I swallowed hard, fear crawling through every nerve in my body. Noah pressed against my side, sensing something terrible but not understanding it fully. Where are they now? I asked. Do you know? Agent Harris glanced at a monitor where security camera feeds flickered rapidly between hallways. No, he said. We lost visual 15 minutes ago. I closed my eyes. My daughter-in-law, the woman who loved my son deeply, who mothered Noah with such tenderness, who tried so hard to build a peaceful life, was now somewhere inside this airport, with a man dangerous enough to shut down an entire terminal, a man who had come specifically for her. Agent Harris, I said, my voice trembling, you need to find her. Whatever it takes, please. We will, he said. But there's something else. My grip tightened on Noah's hand. What now? I whispered. He looked me straight in the eyes. We have reason to believe your son is also in danger. Everything in me went cold. You mean Daniel? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Agent Harris nodded. Double quotes, yes. And from what we can tell, this wasn't just an abduction. His next words nearly stopped my heart. This is the beginning of something much bigger. My ears rang as Agent Harris's words sank in. Something much bigger. That phrase alone could rip the floor out from under any mother or grandmother. But standing in the middle of a lockdown airport, surrounded by radios buzzing, officers sprinting, and screens flashing red alerts, it felt like I was living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I squeezed Noah's hand tightly. He pressed himself against me, clinging to my coat. His small voice trembled. Grandma, is Daddy in trouble too? I swallowed hard. forcing myself not to show fear on my face. "No, sweetheart," I whispered, even though I was no longer sure. "We're going to make sure your daddy is safe." I turned back to Agent Harris, my voice tight. "You need to explain, right now, why would my son be in danger? He's just coming home from work, for God's sake." Harris exhaled slowly, then motioned one of his analysts over. A woman in a headset and dark blazer approached with a tablet in her hand. She pulled up a series of emails, photos, and travelogues. "Ma'am," she said softly, "we believe your son has been under surveillance for at least a month." My stomach dropped. "What? That's impossible." "Not by us," she clarified. "By him." She tapped the blurred photo of Emma's brother, the fugitive. The analyst continued. "Your son's employer operates humanitarian medical missions overseas. He works in high-risk areas, and during the last mission, he transported medical supplies through regions controlled by international criminal networks." I frowned deeply. "Yes, but those supplies were for clinics. He works with licensed What does that have to do with this?" "This man," Agent Harris leaned forward, "that shipment was hijacked 6 months ago." I froze. "He never told us that," I whispered. "He wasn't allowed to," Harris said. "The hijacking was classified due to the identity of the suspect. Your son wasn't hurt, and the stolen goods were not life-threatening, but the hijacker was the same man now inside this airport." I stared at him, stunned. "You're telling me Emma's brother attacked Daniel's mission?" "Yes," Harris said, "but not for the medicine. He was looking for someone." I blinked. "Who?" "Emma." My breath caught in my throat. The analyst added, "We believe he traced the medical mission to a supply database, then followed the organization's personnel records. From there, he found your son's travel schedule, which led him back to Los Angeles." I felt dizzy, holding onto the edge of the metal desk so I didn't collapse. "He was never after Daniel," Harris said grimly. "Your son was just the breadcrumb." I felt sick. Daniel had unknowingly led this monster straight to his wife. Noah tugged my sleeve again. "Grandma, where's Mommy? Why did that bad guy take her?" I pulled him onto my lap. "We're going to bring her back, baby. I promise." But inside, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. The command station erupted as multiple officers shouted. Toward Harris. Visual regained. "She's alive. Subject is moving west corridor. Camera 12, switching now." Everyone turned toward a screen. There she was. Emma. Her face pale. Terrified. Her hands tied in front of her with a zip tie. She walked stiffly, not by choice, pushed forward by a man behind her. Her brother, the fugitive. His hand gripped her arm, so tightly she winced with every step. He kept his head low, hidden beneath a hood and cap. He moved with cold, precise control, scanning every hallway as though he knew the airport better than the staff did. Noah gasped. "Mommy." I hugged him tightly. "Don't look, sweetheart." My heart felt like it was being torn apart. "Where is that hallway?" Harris barked. "West Service Wing," the analyst replied. "Restricted area, maintenance-only access. Cameras are sparse in that zone." "Why would he go there?" I asked desperately. Harris's expression hardened. "Because restricted zones lead to the service roads. If he reaches an exterior door, he could escape the airport." An icy panic rolled through me. "Then stop him," I cried. "We're trying," Harris said. "But he's not just some criminal. He knows surveillance patterns. He knows blind spots. It's almost like he's been here before," the analyst finished. "And he's armed," another officer added. "We saw a weapon when he pushed her past that pillar." No. This was spiraling too fast. "Agent Harris," I said shakily, "you said Emma was hiding her past. Why? Who is he to her?" Harris hesitated, but this time, he answered. "Ma'am, Emma and her brother grew up in a crime syndicate run by their father." My entire body went rigid. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Emma, she's gentle, she's loving, she's never shown any sign of something like that. She escaped when she was 17, Harris explained. "Her brother didn't. He stayed, and eventually, he became one of the organization's key operatives." My throat tightened. I thought about Emma's soft-spoken nature, her love for helping patients, the way she avoided talking about her childhood, how she once told me she got nervous around loud, angry men. "Emma was marked the day she left," Harris continued. "Syndicates like theirs don't let families simply walk away, especially not the children of high-ranking members. They hold grudges, sometimes for decades." I closed my eyes, fighting tears. "And now," Harris said, "they've sent her brother to bring her back." No, they couldn't have her. She had a husband, a child, a life she built with so much courage. "She won't survive if he takes her, will she?" I whispered. Harris didn't answer. He didn't need to. Suddenly, the screens flickered. Camera angles switched. Security footage showed Emma stumbling as her brother dragged her toward a door marked, "Authorized Personnel Only Emergency Exit Team G, Converge." Harris ordered through his radio, "Cut him off from the east end." But before his order was fully transmitted, loud boom echoed from the hallway speakers. Noah screamed. So did I on the screen. Smoke filled the corridor. "What was that?" I cried, clutching Noah. "Flash charge," an officer said numbly. "Not lethal, but enough to blind cameras and disorient pursuers." The screen went static. "We've lost visual," someone shouted. I felt my chest cave in. They were disappearing again. Harris slammed his fist onto the desk. "Damn it, he's prepared for everything." Then he turned to me. "Ma'am," he said urgently, "I need you to stay strong. We might need your help." "My help," I echoed. What could I possibly do? He hesitated again before lowering his voice. "You're the only one he hasn't accounted for." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" Harris leaned closer. "Emma's brother planned for your son." He paused. "He planned for Emma." Another pause. "He planned for airport security." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "But he didn't plan for you." A chill shot down my spine. "What are you saying?" I whispered. Harris spoke slowly, deliberately. "We think you might be the only person who can get close enough to stop him." I froze. "Me," I whispered. "I'm a 62-year-old woman. I'm not a hero. I'm not a trained negotiator. I'm a mother, a grandmother." "Yes," Harris said. "Exactly." He tapped the paused frame of Emma on the monitor. "He's emotionally connected to her. He has one weakness: family." "And what does that have to do with me?" I asked. Harris met my eyes. "Because you're family too. Through marriage, through her new life. You represent everything she chose over him." My breath trembled. "You might be the only person he'll listen to," Harris said. I shook my head. "And if he doesn't?" Harris didn't blink. "Then we have no choice but to neutralize him." The word neutralized stabbed through me. "And Emma," I whispered. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. I knew exactly what it meant. If they take the shot, if they miss, if she's in the way, that would be the end. For her, for Daniel's marriage, for Noah's mother, for all of us. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. No, I wouldn't let that happen. "I'll do it," I said, standing on shaking legs. Harris raised a brow. "Are you sure?" I swallowed hard. "I'm the only chance she has." He nodded once, sharply, and turned to his team. "Prep her," he ordered. We moved now. As officers scrambled around us and tactical teams mobilized toward the west corridor, I hugged Noah one last time, pressing my cheek to his soft hair. "Be brave," I whispered. "I'll bring your mommy back." He clung to me, sobbing. "Promise." I kissed his forehead. "I promise." And for the first time in my life, I didn't know if I could keep it. The next minutes blurred together as agents rushed around me, fitting an earpiece to my left ear, fastening a small transmitter to the inside of my jacket, checking it twice, speaking in clip, rapid instructions that barely made sense in my state of spiraling fear. Noah sobbed into the shoulder of a female officer who held him in her arms, trying to soothe him. He watched me with big, tear-filled eyes that silently begged me not to go. Every instinct in my body screamed to stay with him, to protect him, but Emma needed me more. Agent Harris stood in front of me, adjusting the tiny mic clipped discreetly near my collar. "You're our only controlled variable," he said. "He won't expect to see you. That gives us the edge." Edge. The word didn't comfort me. I felt like a grandmother being shoved into a battlefield armed with nothing but fear and hope. Harris continued. "You'll approach slowly. Don't run. Don't scream. Don't challenge him. He's been trained to read body language. Any sudden movement," he stopped himself before finishing the sentence, "but I knew, could get me killed." "What do I say?" I asked. "Start simple," he replied. "Show concern. Call Emma's name. Don't confront him about his crimes or their past. Not yet." My stomach churned. "Do you think he'll talk to me?" "Honestly," Harris said, "I don't know, but I do know this. Men like him, they underestimate older women. They don't see you as a threat." He wasn't wrong, but that didn't mean I wasn't terrified. He pressed a pager into my palm. "This is a silent alert. If you feel you're in immediate danger, press it. We'll storm the corridor." My throat tightened. "And Emma," I whispered. Harris's jaw worked. "We'll try to minimize risk." I knew what that meant. Minimize, not avoid. I closed my eyes, inhaled shakily, and gave one slow nod. Where do I go? Harris motioned to the main monitor. It showed a map of Terminal C overlaid with heat signatures. He used a flash charge to blind cameras, Harris said, but the thermal sensors still caught movement. There, in this hallway, he pointed at a narrow corridor behind maintenance storage rooms. And this one, I pointed to a blinking dot near the far wall. That's you, he said. You'll enter from the opposite end. How far is he from an exit? I asked. Too close, Harris muttered. If he reaches that service door, he'll be outside in 30 seconds. After that, extraction becomes almost impossible. A spike of fear shot through me. Emma didn't have minutes. She had seconds. Let's move, Harris said. They escorted me down a dim service staircase meant for staff only. Pipes ran overhead in tangled lines, hissing softly. The air smelled of industrial cleaner and cold metal. Every step echoed. I felt the weight of reality pressing down on me. This wasn't a movie. There was no dramatic music, no scripted outcome. Real people's lives were on the line. Emma's life. I gripped the railing, steadying myself in my earpiece. Harris's voice came through in low, controlled tones. Take a left. 2 officers are stationed behind you for backup. They won't move unless ordered. Good, I whispered. Just don't let Noah come anywhere near this. He won't, Harris assured. We reached a small metal door labeled West Service Access Authorized Personnel, O&L Witha. Officer beside me swiped his keycard. Once inside, he whispered, move slowly. Stay in the open where he can see you. I nodded, though I wasn't sure my legs would obey. The door clicked open. A gust of colder air hit my face. The hallway was long, narrow, and dimly lit by flickering fluorescent tubes. Metal shelves lined the walls, and carts of cleaning supplies were abandoned mid-shift. I stepped inside, the door shut behind me with a heavy thunk. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Harris, I whispered into the mic, I'm in. We see your tracker, he replied. You're 25 meters from the target. Proceed. My breathing echoed in my ears, loud and uneven. I forced myself to walk forward one cautious step at a time. My heartbeat thundered against my ribs. Somewhere ahead, faint and distant, I heard something, a scuffle, a thud, a muffled voice. Emma. I picked up the pace despite my terror. Slow down, Harris said sharply. Do not run. I'm not, I lied. I reached a bend in the hallway. My fingers trembled as they brushed the cool metal wall. Then I saw them. Emma was on her knees, hands bound, her cheek bruised, lip bleeding. Her breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. Behind her stood her brother, taller than I expected, broad-shouldered, eyes cold. He held her by the back of the neck, a switchblade pressed against her side, a knife. No gun. Small relief, but not much. Emma saw me first. Her eyes widened in disbelief and horror. No, you shouldn't be here, she whispered, shaking her head wildly. Her brother turned. I froze. The moment his eyes locked on me, I felt the temperature drop. He studied me with unsettling calm, as if evaluating whether I was a threat or an obstacle, or a bargaining chip. Who the hell are you? He asked, voice low and dangerous. I swallowed hard. My name is... My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. My name is Margaret. I'm Emma's mother-in-law. His eyes narrowed. You weren't supposed to be part of this. Emma sobbed. Please, please, just let her go. She has nothing to do with this. He yanked her upright by the arm. She winced in pain. Everyone is part of this now, he hissed. I forced myself to step forward. Stop, he barked sharply. One more step and she bleeds. I froze instantly. Harris, I whispered into the mic. Keep talking, he instructed. By time I steadied my voice, you don't want to hurt her. She's your sister. He laughed, short, cold, humorless. Sister, she abandoned us. She abandoned me. Emma shook her head violently. No, I was a kid. You left, he growled, and everything fell apart because of you. I felt my anger spark despite the fear. This wasn't just a criminal. This was trauma, twisted, festering, weaponized, and I had to reach whatever humanity was left inside him. She didn't choose a life without you, I said gently. She chose survival. He glared. Shut up. But his grip on her loosened, barely. But enough. I pressed forward while the moment lasted. She built a life here, I continued. A good one. She has a family that loves her. His jaw tightened. I'm taking her back. You're taking her to die, I said quietly. He froze. Emma went still. Even the air felt suspended. I took a shaky breath. You know what they do to traitors. Your syndicate won't reward you for bringing her back. They'll punish you for waiting this long. He flinched barely, but I saw it. A crack, a tiny, hairline fracture in his certainty. Shut up, he said again, but this time, it lacked fire. Harris whispered in my ear. You're getting through, keep going. So I did. You think you're saving her? I said, but you're delivering her to the same hell you grew up in. He looked away sharply, jaw clenched. And you, I continued softly. You're running from them too, aren't you? His eyes snapped back to mine. Shocked, I stepped forward again. Tiny steps, barely movements. You wouldn't be here alone if you weren't running, I said. They don't send one man for a capture. They send teams, but you came alone. You're not their soldier. You're their loose end. His hand trembled on Emma's arm. You don't know anything, he whispered. But it was losing power. Emma sobbed. Please, please listen to her, Jason. Jason. His name hit him like a slap. He squeezed his eyes shut in pain, and for the first time, I saw it beneath the hardened exterior, beneath the criminal reputation, beneath the years of violence. There was a frightened boy, a boy who once had a little sister he loved. Jason, I said softly, you don't have to do this. His hand slipped, just slightly away from the knife. Harris whispered urgently, hold him there. We've almost got a shot. No, not yet. If they stormed too soon, Emma could get caught in the crossfire. Jason, I said more firmly, if you hurt her, you lose the only person who still remembers you as anything but a fugitive. His eyes glistened, a single tear welled and slipped down his cheek. He looked at Emma, truly looked at her, and his face crumpled. I never had a choice, he whispered. They own everything. They own me. No, I said softly. They don't. His breath shook. They'll kill me, he said. And if you take her, I replied, you'll have to watch them kill her too. Silence fell, heavy, electric, breaking him apart from the inside. Emma whispered, Jason, please, don't make me lose you twice. His knife dropped, clattered, onto the floor. I almost collapsed from relief, but the moment wasn't over, not even close. Jason put his hands on his head. I'm done, he whispered. I can't run anymore. Harris's voice came urgently. Wait, don't move, something's wrong. What? I whispered. Then Jason turned to me, eyes dark with new realization. You weren't supposed to be here, he said softly. I frowned. Jason, it's over. Surrender. He shook his head. No, you don't understand. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered violently. The walls vibrated. A deep, metallic sound groaned through the hallway. Jake's face drained of color. There, not here for her, he whispered. My heart lurched. What do you mean? Jason looked toward the ceiling, dread flooding his expression. They're here for me. And then, deafening explosion ripped through the far end of the corridor. Floor shook. Emma screamed. Smoke burst through the hallway like a tidal wave, and out of the smoke, shadowy figures emerged, armed, fast, and not from law enforcement. Emma wasn't the only target. Jason wasn't the only threat. We had just walked into the middle of an ambush. The drive from the airport to the precinct felt endless, even though it was barely 15 minutes away. My hands were shaking so badly that I had to grip the door handle to steady myself. The security officer Maya drove in silence, except for the occasional update coming through her radio updates. I wasn't allowed to hear the details of every coded phrase. Made my heart pound harder. Ma'am, she finally said in a calm, practiced tone. I need you to remember something important. Until we confirm what's actually happening, do not assume your daughter-in-law is guilty of anything. I swallowed the dryness in my throat. I don't think she is. She's never given me a reason to doubt her. But all of this doesn't make sense. She was fine this morning. She was excited to see my son. She even cried in the car. Why would she run? Maya glanced at me briefly. People don't always run because they're guilty. Sometimes they run because they're scared. That sentence pierced me. Scared. Was she scared? Of what? Of whom? Minutes later, we pulled into the police station. The building looked like any other city. Precinct, gray walls, narrow windows, an American flag swaying in the cold November air. But walking through the double doors felt like stepping into a different world, one where I could no longer pretend everything was fine. Inside, officers walked briskly, phones rang nonstop, and the faint smell of coffee and printer ink filled the air. I was escorted to a small interview room. Not an interrogation room, at least. That's what Maya stressed, but a witness interview space. Witness. At least they didn't call me a suspect. Someone will be with you shortly, Maya said before stepping out. My hands twisted together nervously as I waited. The room was too quiet, too cold, too bright. The buzzing fluorescent light above me flickered every few seconds, like it was mocking my anxiety. When the door finally opened, a tall man in his late 40s walked in, wearing a badge clipped to his belt and reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Mrs. Turner?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm Detective Raymond Calder," he said, taking a seat across from me. He placed a folder. My heart skipped as I noticed it was already thick on the table. "I'm going to ask you some questions about your daughter-in-law, Emily. This is not an interrogation. You are not under investigation. You are simply helping us build a timeline." "Detective," I said, leaning forward, "I need you to tell me what's going on. Why was she being chased?" He folded his hands calmly. "We received a federal alert early this morning. A woman matching Emily's description was believed to be involved in the disappearance of a young woman in Oregon, a case that has been active for months." My breath caught. "What?" I whispered. "Emily. No. She would never. She's not capable of anything like that." Detective Calder nodded slowly. "This is why we're trying to verify whether it's truly her. The cameras at the airport picked up facial similarities, but nothing conclusive. When you arrived, your daughter-in-law's behavior raised red flags." "What behavior?" I protested. "Using the restroom, being quiet." He opened the folder and slid a page toward me, a printed photo, a still frame from an airport camera. The woman in the photo looked like Emily. Same posture, same hair color, same height, but the face wasn't perfectly clear. The angle was bad. The timestamp was from 5 minutes before she went missing. "She looks like her," I admitted, my heart sinking. "But that could be anyone. Half the women in that airport looked like that." Detective Calder didn't disagree. "You're absolutely right. The only reason the alert was triggered is because the missing woman's suspect was believed to be traveling through major transportation hubs. But what made your daughter-in-law suspicious was her reaction." "What reaction?" "I wasn't even with her when she went into the restroom." He pointed to the upper corner of the folder. "Before entering the restroom, she was seen speaking to someone on her phone while looking over her shoulder." I blinked. "She wasn't on the phone. I was with her. Her phone was in her bag. She only checked it when we were near the arrivals board." He froze. "What?" I asked. "Are you absolutely certain she wasn't on a call?" He asked more intensely now. "Positive. Her phone rang once earlier in the car, but she didn't pick up. She said she'd call back later." Detective Calder leaned back in his chair slowly, processing this. "So if she wasn't on the phone," he murmured, "then who was that woman talking to?" A chill ran up my spine. "You mean that wasn't Emily?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Possibly, or possibly not," he said. Just then, the door swung open. An officer stepped in, handed the detective a small tablet, and whispered something urgently. Detective Calder's face changed instantly. His jaw tightened. "What is it?" I asked. He turned the tablet toward me. My heart nearly stopped. It was another still image, but this time from the exit cameras. The woman running. The woman they chased. The woman they thought was Emily, except this woman was wearing different shoes, different bag. Different posture. And when the camera caught her face, it wasn't Emily. It wasn't even close. Detective Calder set the tablet down. "Mrs. Turner," he said slowly, "it appears your daughter-in-law was not the one who ran." My whole body trembled. "So where is she?" I whispered. The detective exchanged a look with the officer beside him. "We don't know," he said. Those 3 words felt like a knife sinking into my chest. Before I could react, another officer ran in. "Detective, Airport Security just confirmed something else. The woman who ran, she wasn't alone. A man was seen escorting her out of a side exit. We're trying to identify him." Detective Calder stood up immediately. "Get me the footage." The officer rushed out. Detective Calder turned back to me. "Mrs. Turner, this is now officially a coordinated investigation. Your daughter-in-law isn't a suspect. She's missing." I covered my mouth as tears spilled down my cheeks. "And if she's missing," he added quietly, "we need to consider the possibility that she didn't walk away by choice." My chest tightened painfully. "What does that mean?" I whispered. "What are you saying?" Detective Calder hesitated. "Mrs. Turner," he said gently, "we believe your daughter-in-law may have been abducted inside the airport." The room spun. My breath vanished, and the horrifying truth settled in. Emily hadn't run. She'd been taken. For a few seconds I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe. The word abducted kept repeating in my head, louder and louder, until it drowned out everything else. The fluorescent light above me flickered again, and I felt like the whole room was tilting. Detective Calder watched me carefully. Mrs. Turner, I know this is overwhelming, but we need to move fast. Every minute matters. I pressed a trembling hand over my chest, trying to steady my heartbeat. She was with me, right beside me. How could someone take her without me noticing? He pulled out a chair and sat beside me instead of across from me, lowering his voice. Airports are crowded, noisy, and chaotic. People get separated all the time without realizing it. Abductions in public places often depend on subtle moments, seconds, where someone gets distracted. I thought back to the moment she told me she needed a minute. Her face looked pale, stressed. She kept rubbing her hands together. I thought it was nerves about seeing my son again after a year apart. She'd even joked about losing her composure. But was she nervous because something else was happening? Something she never told us about? Detective Calder tapped lightly on the table. Before we move further, I need to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Has Emily mentioned anything unusual to you recently? Any threats? Anyone following her? Any conflict from her past? I shook my head slowly. No, she's always been private, quiet, but nothing frightening. She works remotely. She hardly goes out, except with her son, and she's been counting down the days until my son came back. He studied my face with a steady, unreadable expression. And what about your son? Did he ever mention anything odd about his wife while overseas? No, I said firmly. He talks about her like she's his whole world. He was excited to surprise her at the airport. He kept saying he couldn't wait to hold her. Detective Calder gave a small nod. Then whatever happened today might not involve your family directly. He stood and motioned for me to follow. Come with me. There's something you need to see. My legs felt unsteady as I walked behind him through the hallway. The station suddenly seemed louder, phones ringing, officers calling out codes, printers running nonstop. A knot of dread twisted deeper in my stomach. He led me into a monitoring room filled with screens. Several officers stared at footage from different angles of the airport. One of them clicked through frames rapidly, enlarging parts of the screen. Pause there, Calder instructed. On the large screen, I saw the hallway outside the restroom where Emily said she would meet us. The times temp read 11:18 a.m. Emily walked into the frame. She looked calm, maybe tired. She checked something in her bag, then she disappeared into the restroom. That part, I knew. But what happened next made my blood run cold. 2 minutes later, 11:20 a.m. a man appeared at the far end of the corridor. He walked slowly at first, looking around in a way that felt intentional, calculated. He wasn't holding a phone, he wasn't carrying bags, and he wasn't dressed like a traveler, just dark clothes and a cap pulled low over his face. Who is that? I whispered. We're working on it, Calder replied. The man leaned against the wall near the restroom entrance. His posture was casual, but his eyes, at least from what little the camera captured, were fixed on the door. Emily had entered. Another minute passed. Some women exited the restroom. One even brushed by him. He didn't react. Then, at 11:23, Emily stepped out, and this time, she didn't look calm. Her eyes darted left and right. She clutched her bag tightly. Her shoulders were tense. She walked toward the main corridor, almost hurriedly. The man fell in step. Behind her, my hand flew to my mouth. Oh my God, keep watching, Calder said quietly. Emily turned right toward the family restroom area, an area less crowded. The man followed. At 11:25, they disappeared from that camera angle. Another video feed popped onto the screen. This one showed a side hallway with fewer travelers, mostly employees passing through. Emily walked quickly now. The man wasn't far behind. Then, just as she reached the small vending machine, Alkovihi placed a hand on her arm. Emily froze. Her face, her expression, I will never forget it. It wasn't confusion, it was fear. She said something the camera had no audio for. He stepped closer, leaning toward her ear. Emily shook her head, tried to pull back. He tightened his grip. My knees buckled and I reached for the desk to steady myself. Why didn't anyone notice? I whispered hoarsely. Calder exhaled slowly. To an outsider, it might have looked like two people arguing quietly. Most travelers are too distracted to intervene. The man guided or forced her toward a door labeled staff only. An airport employee passed by, but the man turned his body slightly, blocking his view of Emily. Within seconds, he pushed through the door with her. The timestamp read 11:27 a.m. I pressed a hand to my forehead as dizziness washed over me. She didn't run. My voice cracked. She didn't run at all. Someone took her. Calder nodded. Yes, and we're working on identifying that man as fast as possible. But why? I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. Why her? She doesn't even know people here. She barely leaves the house. Why target her? Detective Calder folded his arms, his jaw tightening. There are a few possibilities, none of them confirmed. He turned to another officer. Show her the next clip. A new video appeared, this one from a restricted hallway behind the staff door. The camera angle was grainy, older equipment. But the moment I saw Emily again, my chest tightened painfully. The man was pushing her forward with a hand on her shoulder. She stumbled once, clutching her bag like it was a lifeline. He led her toward a service elevator. When the doors opened, she looked straight at the camera for just 1 second. Her eyes were full of silent panic. Then the elevator doors closed. That was the last footage available. My legs felt weak. Detective Calder lowered the volume of the radios around us before speaking. Mrs. Turner, we're now working under the assumption this was a coordinated abduction with pre-planned escape routes. We're checking employee records and badge access logs. Is she still alive? I whispered. His eyes softened, but his voice remained steady. There is no evidence she's been harmed. And in cases like this, abductors usually have a motive. They don't take someone without a reason. I sank into a chair, my thoughts spiraling. Motive. Why Emily? Why today? Why? At the exact moment my son was returning home, my breathing turned shaky. My son doesn't know yet. He thinks he's coming home to a warm welcome. He'll be landing in 30 minutes. What am I supposed to tell him? Detective Calder paused for a long moment. Then he said, Mrs. Turner, I think your son may know more about this than any of us realize. My head snapped up. What are you implying? He didn't raise his voice. He didn't sound accusatory. He sounded like someone stating a difficult truth. Your daughter-in-law wasn't chosen at random, he said. This was planned, coordinated, timed with your son's return. I stared at him, unable to form words. Detective Calder sat down next to me. We need to know everything your son told you, anything that seemed odd, because if someone abducted her, your son may be the reason. The room fell silent, except for the pounding in my ears. And for the first time since the chaos started, a new fear took hold. Maybe Emily wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Maybe my son was too. The minutes after Detective Calder revealed the next piece of information blurred into a haze of fear and disbelief. One moment, I was gripping the edge of the interview table to stay upright. The next, I was being led down a hallway lined with security monitors, feeling like each step was pulling me deeper into someone else's nightmare, a nightmare that somehow involved my family, a nightmare I had no power to wake up from. Detective Calder motioned for me to stand beside him in the surveillance hub, a dim, cold room filled with humming equipment and screens displaying dozens of angles from the airport. Officers stood at desks, rewinding footage, zooming in, cross-referencing, timestamps, their faces growing more serious with every passing minute. Mrs. Turner, Calder said, we've isolated a few critical points showing the last confirmed moments your daughter-in-law was seen. I forced myself to breathe as he tapped a screen. The footage rewound, then began playing at half speed. There she was, Emily, walking toward the restroom with her purse over her shoulder. Her steps calm and casual, her hand reaching to adjust her jacket. Just behind her was a mother pushing a stroller, a man on a phone, a teenage girl laughing with a friend. Normal, ordinary, safe, nothing about the moment suggested danger. Then the camera angle changed. From above, I watched her pause briefly before entering the women's restroom, just long enough to glance back at something behind her. My heart clenched. What was she looking at? I asked. Calder pointed to the far side of the frame, zoomed in, enhanced. A man, standing near a vending machine. He wasn't doing anything overtly suspicious, just standing there, hands in his pockets, facing in her direction. But there was something about the stillness of his posture, the way his head tilted slightly as she entered the restroom. It was too intentional. Do we know who he is? I asked quietly. We're working on it, Calder said. He left the airport 30 seconds after she entered the restroom. 30 seconds, I exclaimed. Why would he leave if he was watching her? That's exactly what we're trying to figure out, he replied. It's possible he wasn't working alone. My stomach dropped. Working alone, I whispered. What does that mean? Are you suggesting? Another officer cut in, holding a tablet with fresh footage. Detective, you need to see this. It's from the service corridor door behind the restroom. Service corridor. My pulse spiked as the new video loaded. This angle was from a security camera pointed down a staff-only hallway, dimly lit, quiet, usually ignored by passengers. The timestamp matched the same minute Emily entered the restroom. My eyes went wide. A figure small, hurried slipped through the service door. A woman, wearing the exact same jacket Emily had on, the same hair length, the same height. "Oh my God," I whispered, "that looks like her." But when the figure turned their head slightly, the camera caught enough of the face to show what my heart didn't want to accept. It wasn't Emily. "Look at the shoes," Calder said. I zoomed in. Different. Same style, same color. Even but the sole was thicker, bulkier. Not the pair Emily wore that morning. A decoy, Calder said grimly. Someone had dressed like her. Someone had purposely misled security. But why? I asked, my voice cracking. Why go through so much trouble to pretend to be her? Detective Calder didn't answer immediately. He replayed the footage, slowed it even further, then the angle shifted to another camera picking up the same decoy woman, exiting through the unauthorized staff corridor and meeting the same mysterious man from earlier. They exchanged something small, maybe a phone, maybe keys, maybe a card. Then they walked swiftly toward a side exit where a dark SUV waited with its engines on. The woman entered the back, the man entered the passenger seat. The SUV pulled away. No hesitation, no confusion, a mission completed. This wasn't random, Calder said quietly, almost to himself. This was coordinated. My breath trembled. But if she wasn't the one who ran from security, then where is she? What about inside the restroom? Did she ever come out? Detective Calder's expression darkened. "We're about to check the restroom footage now." He nodded to the officer controlling the screens. I held my breath as the restroom hallway view appeared. Because of privacy restrictions, cameras couldn't be inside, but they did track traffic in and out. The footage played. Emily went in. Time passed. A woman in a red dress entered. Two teenagers entered. An older woman with a cane entered. Then the teens left. The woman with the cane left. The woman in red left. A janitor passed by, didn't enter. Time kept moving forward. But not once, not a single time did Emily come back out. My skin turned to ice. "That can't be right," I whispered. "She had to come out. Maybe the camera missed her. Maybe she left through the other side." Calder shook his head. "There is no other exit." "What about the service door?" I asked desperately. "The one the decoy used." He pulled up that footage again. Only the decoy had come through. Not Emily. The realization hit me like a blow to the chest. Emily had vanished inside the restroom. "How is that even possible?" I cried. "People don't just disappear, ma'am," Calder said, his tone heavy but controlled. "There is a stall at the far end of that restroom. Behind it is an access hatch meant only for maintenance personnel. It is supposed to remain locked at all times." My eyes widened. "Supposed to." He nodded slowly. "We're checking now if it was opened or forced." My knees weakened, and I had to grip the back of a chair to steady myself. Someone had gone into that restroom. Someone had targeted her. Someone had known exactly where she would be and how to get her out without being caught immediately. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. This was calculated, planned, but organized. Before I could speak again, another officer hurried over. "Detective Calder, you need to see this. We found something in the restroom." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Found what?" I whispered. The officer handed him a small evidence bag. Inside was something I recognized instantly. A bracelet. Emily's bracelet. The one I had given her the Christmas before last. A simple silver chain with a tiny blue stone. She never took it off. "Oh God," I cried softly. No, this can't be happening." Detective Calder placed the evidence bag gently on the table. "Mrs. Turner," he said, "we now have reason to believe your daughter-in-law was forcibly removed from the airport." My hands covered my mouth, tears streamed down my face, and then he added something that made my whole body go still. "We also have a lead, someone who may have taken her, and it ties directly to your son." I froze. "My son," I whispered, as if the word itself was too heavy. Double quotes. "Yes, but not in the way you think," Calder said quickly. "Your son is not a suspect, but someone connected to him might be." My entire world tilted. "What are you saying?" I asked breathlessly. Calder hesitated. "Mrs. Turner, someone from your son's past resurfaced." I stared at him, panic sharp in my throat. "Who?" I asked. The detective exhaled. "A woman he once knew overseas." My heartbeat thundered. What does a woman from overseas have to do with Emily being kidnapped? Calder looked me dead in the eyes. Because according to Homeland Security she went missing 2 years ago. I shook my head, confused, terrified. And her last known contact, Calder continued, was with your son. My breath caught. I felt like the ground was disappearing under my feet. Mrs. Turner, he said gently, we need to talk about what your son never told you. The hotel room was dim, despite the afternoon sun pushing through the beige curtains. My hands trembled as I swiped the keycard and stepped inside. Everything smelled faintly of detergent and coffee, a strange mix that made my stomach twist tighter with every breath. Detective Calder had secured the room hours earlier, making sure no one entered or tampered with anything. Now it was just me, my grandson on my hip, and the crushing silence of a space my daughter-in-law had stepped into, and never stepped out of again. I exhaled shakily. Okay, I whispered, mostly to myself but partly to Benjamin. We're going to take this slow. Grandma's right here. He rested his head on my shoulder, exhausted from everything, even though he didn't fully understand the danger. He felt the tension, the fear in every adult who had touched him today. I scanned the room. A suitcase sat unzipped on the bed. Clothes neatly folded inside Bentley's style, carefully arranged as always. A pair of pajamas hung from the bathroom door hook. Her laptop sat closed on the desk, charger neatly wrapped. Everything screamed routine. Nothing screamed panic. Nothing screamed running away. She didn't plan to disappear. I whispered. Benjamin squirmed, reaching toward the nightstand. Mama's book. I followed his gesture. There, sitting unnoticed, before, was a small paperback children's book, his favorite one. The one she always carried in her purse to read to him during long waits. Except it wasn't supposed to be in the hotel room. She never separated from that book. My heart pounded. Ben, I murmured, lowering him gently onto the bed. Can you show Grandma something? Where was Mommy reading this book? He tapped the pillow beside him. Here, last night. Good job, sweetheart. I examined the book. Nothing unusual until a moment later, when something fell from between the pages. A folded slip of paper. My chest tightened. I unfolded it slowly, expecting a note, a message, something, but instead, there was only one thing there, a room service receipt. No writing. No clues, just a timestamp and an item list. I frowned. Why would she hide this? I whispered. The receipt was from 10:43 p.m. last night, the night before she disappeared. Emily hadn't mentioned ordering anything. She rarely ordered room service. She hated wasting money. I scanned it again. 2 items, chamomile tea, a slice of lemon cheesecake. Nothing strange, except a detail at the bottom that hit me like ice water. Delivered by Owens, guest services, the same last name as the man the detective believed matched the description of one of the suspects seen escorting the running woman. My pulse spiked. Coincidence? Maybe once, maybe twice, but 3 times. Hotel employee, same name as possible suspect, last person to deliver something to her room. This wasn't coincidence. This was a trail. Hands shaking, I grabbed my phone and dialed Detective Calder immediately. He answered on the second ring. Mrs. Turner, are you okay? No, I found something. My voice quivered. A room service slip hidden inside a book. Deliverer's name is Owens. The same name you said could be connected to the man in the security footage. Dead silence. Then Calder spoke, voice tense. Don't touch anything else. I'm sending a unit now. Detective, I think he was in this room. I think he met her last night. Why didn't she tell us? She might not have realized she was in danger, he replied. Or she didn't want to worry you. I closed my eyes, imagining her trying to stay calm, trying to be normal, hiding a slip of paper because something felt wrong. Detective, I whispered. This man came to her room alone. I know, he muttered. We're bringing in hotel management for questioning. While we waited, I kept searching the room, but carefully, without disturbing anything. I checked the bathroom. Nothing unusual. No signs of a struggle. No dropped items. No broken toiletries. Nothing until I stepped back into the bedroom and noticed something I hadn't seen before. Faint, almost invisible smudge on the wall near the doorframe. A handprint, a very faint one, too high to belong to Emily. More like someone tall had braced themselves, or blocked the doorway, or grabbed her. A wave of nausea rolled through me. I backed away, clutching the edge of the dresser to steady myself. Then something else caught my eye. Under the bed, a glint. I crouched down, stretching my hand into the darkness until my fingers brushed something cold and metallic. I pulled it out slowly. AKEYCARD. Not the hotel key. This was different. Black, square, on the back, a number etched into the surface. G12. What is this? I breathed. A storage unit, a secure area, a staff room number, a garage level. Before I could think further, the door burst open. Detective Calder and 2 officers stepped inside. What did you find? He asked immediately. I handed him the keycard. His eyes widened not with confusion, but recognition. Ma'am, do you know what this is? I shook my head. No. Calder exhaled sharply. This is a restricted access key. Airport staff uses these 2 open secured hallways. My blood ran cold. So the man who delivered room service, I whispered, was airport staff. Calder finished grimly. Which means he likely had access to employee-only entrances at both the hotel and the airport. My knees nearly buckled. He could move her, I choked, without cameras. Calder nodded, jaw tight. We need to run this keycard's number. G12 might tell us exactly where he took her. As one of the officers hurried out with the evidence, I lifted Benjamin into my arms again. He sensed the shift in energy and clung to my shirt, burying his face in my shoulder. Mrs. Turner, Calder said quietly, we're dealing with something bigger than a mistaken identity. This looks organized, coordinated. Why, Emily? I whispered. Why her? She's not wealthy. She's not political. She's not targets. Aren't always chosen for who they are, Calder said softly. Sometimes it's who they were near, or what they accidentally saw, or someone from their past. My breath caught from her past. Calder nodded grimly. We're looking at every possibility. The words felt like a punch to the chest. Could someone from her childhood, her hometown, her job, have followed her? Could this have been planned? My mind raced. Calder placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We're going to follow every lead. Starting now. The officer who left suddenly reappeared, out of breath. Detective, we found where G12 leads. Calder turned sharply. Where? The officer swallowed. It links to a restricted hallway under the airport. Former employee tunnel, decommissioned years ago. My heart dropped. Is it still accessible? Calder asked. Yes, the officer replied. And security footage shows someone using that door last night. The air in the room tightened up. Calder looked straight at me, eyes full of grim determination. Mrs. Turner, we believe Emily was taken through that tunnel. A trembling breath escaped me. And we're going down there, Calder said. Now. My pulse hammered with a mix of terror and desperate hope, because if they knew where she had been taken, then maybe we weren't too late. By the time the SWAT team and federal agents coordinated a plan, I was exhausted, but I couldn't leave Emma behind. The intelligence suggested she was being held in a storage hangar near the West Service Road, a place with limited exits. Jason, her brother, had been seen with her earlier. But now there was no visual dot. Agent Harris turned to me, his expression grim. We can storm the hangar, he said, but it's risky. You may be the only way to get her out alive. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. I'll do it, I said. The hangar was dark, lit only by faint emergency lights. I could hear the hum of machinery, the faint echo of footsteps, and somewhere in the distance, muffled voices. Emily, I called softly. A light shone from the corner. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Relief and fear battled in her expression. Mom, she whispered, her voice breaking. I stepped closer. We're getting you out. Suddenly, Jason appeared, stepping from the shadows, tense, conflicted. I can't let you leave, he said, but his voice trembled. They'll kill me if I let you go. I don't care what they say, I replied firmly. You're her brother. But this isn't the way. Let her live. His grip on the railing loosened. His inner conflict was clear. And then the sound of approaching footsteps forced a decision. Jason stepped aside. Go now. We ran. We reached the exit just as agents arrived, surrounding the hangar. Jason disappeared back into the shadows, leaving chaos behind. Emily ran into my arms. I thought I'd never see you again, she sobbed. I held her tightly. You're safe now, I whispered. Noah ran up moments later, escorted by an agent. He hugged his mother and me, tears streaming down his face. Agent Harris approached. We've got him contained. For now. Emily looked at me, shaken but alive. I never expected. You, I smiled through tears. I told you, Emily, family is stronger than fear. As we walked out of the hangar, the early morning sun cutting through the chaos, I realized something profound. Survival wasn't just about planning or foresight. was about love, courage, and never giving up on the people you care about. The nightmare had ended, but the bond we shared had grown stronger, unshakable, and ready to face whatever came next.